So, welcome everybody to episode 2 of the LinkedIn Ads Lab. I'm absolutely delighted to have Beker here from Cognism, who a lot of you may have seen around LinkedIn. He posts some great content about LinkedIn, but he also has had, from what I can tell, an amazing career in growth marketing and in paid social marketing. So this podcast today is going to be full of good nuggets from our initial conversations. We've already touched on some really interesting topics. So I hope that's going to translate into a lot of value for the rest of you. So Canberk, please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about Cognism.
Hi Rob, thank you for having me, and hello everyone. This is Canberk. I'm the global head of paid acquisition at Cognism. The title is getting longer lately, and I'm just trying to memorize the whole title. I basically manage paid ads, so let's forget about all of the fancy names. I do paid. I'm the performance marketing person at Cognism, and Cognism is a sales intelligence software. So you can find the contact data of companies, of the contacts that you want to reach out. You can use Cognism to enrich your CRM database. You can use Cognism to find companies who are showing intent for your product. We also have the intent data provided by Bambora. So yeah, we are basically a contact data provider, and we are operating in the UK and in the US. And before joining Cognism, I was the head of growth at Deepcrawl, which was a technical SEO software. And technical SEO was a bit challenging an environment because you are selling to SEO people who don't believe in marketing, who don't believe in paid ads. Like I would say, Deepcrawl was the most challenging journey in my life. And my career actually started in a bit interesting way, I would say. I'm a law graduate. I was a lawyer. I was a corporate lawyer. And I used to work with these startup people. They would have fun, and I would do the paperwork. I would do the boring stuff. And I decided to quit lawyering around, like I found this job, and I started as a growth hacker in a B2C company. But back then, I literally had no experience. Like, I took some economic classes back in the uni, but when you think about the macroeconomics are completely different than what you see in startups. So yeah, I joined to this B2C company, and that's how I learned Google Ads and some bits of Facebook. Then I realized that B2C was not the place to be. Like, you deal with small amount of numbers, but a lot of orders, a lot of people, and it was not the business that I wanted to be in. So I decided to be in the B2B side of the things. But also I decided that I should be in the software side of the things, not in the service side. And back then I met with this person who was founding a startup, and I joined as a co-founder. And the startup was a B2B software business called Movico, and it was basically a mobile commerce builder, no-code mobile commerce builder for e-commerce companies. We launched the MVP, and a month later, COVID happened. But in our case, COVID actually helped us really well. Like, with COVID, the demand for e-commerce got skyrocketed, therefore the demand for mobile commerce, and like in our third month, we were dealing with like 500 customers already. And by the end of the year, we were already at 1 million.
Whoa.
And after a year and a half, we were in the investment round, and I just decided to sell my shares and move to the UK. So I moved to the UK for Deepcrawl around like 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago now. I joined Deepcrawl as a demand gen manager. Then I became head of growth. Then, yeah, I joined Cognism now more than a year ago now. Last week was my first year. And at Cognism, couple of months ago, I have been promoted to group global head of paid acquisition. Still such a long title. And I'm now dealing with Cognism and two other companies that were acquired by Cognism, Casper and Mailtastic. So we have a team of 7 people in the marketing team, in the paid marketing team, in my team, and in the marketing team there are like 50 people. I joined Cognism to build the team from scratch. I joined as the employee number 1 in the paid team, and now there's like 7 people, The team is growing, the company is growing. It has been really fun to be fair.
That is a very interesting journey. I always love the start because the journeys are just always so different, and it's amazing to see where people come from. And I think Cognism is, I'm sure people have been seeing them everywhere on LinkedIn. But I don't know if you have an employee advocacy program. I'm sure there is something there, but it's amazing where you just see you guys everywhere on LinkedIn, in many different, for me specifically, in many different fields of marketing. So you're doing that really well.
Thank you. And on the employee advocacy side, it is completely organic. Literally, there is no program, there is no structure. But it's a bit weird because before I started Cognism, I was actually not posting on LinkedIn at all. Then I joined Cognism and I had this weird feeling. I was like, okay, everyone is posting. I should be posting. Then I started posting. Now everyone in my team, they are posting every week. And like my team is a completely new team. The most senior person in my team has 2 years of experience. The others are either new grads or like have 1 year of experience. But now they keep posting constantly. Like I don't even tell them that they need to be posting, but it is somehow developing in organic.
It's amazing. Maybe it's just the like demographic of the workforce. I don't know, but I think you're kind of starting a blueprint that a lot of other companies are maybe taking a lot of inspiration from.
Like okay, there is no structure, but there's also no discouragement. Like
Yeah,
I know there are a lot of people talking with me on LinkedIn or in real life, and they're like, okay, I love to post, but my company wouldn't like that. Like they
yeah.
wouldn't let me post. But in our case, it is encouraged. Like if you post something, the first comment will always come from Alice, the CMO. Like even though there's no official, I don't know, program to make employees post. If you post, it is encouraged, and it is very supportive in
Mm.
in this sense.
Yeah, I've worked with many companies of a similar size where it has been the opposite. Like I was trying an employee advocacy program in a company before, where I got an email then from the CEO who we didn't speak much, and it was just like, no, that's not what we want to do. We don't want to give away our secrets. We don't want to get our employees poached. It was a list of different reasons why. So yeah, I think you're the new age, definitely, and I hope it's bringing dividends. I'm sure it is.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, as long as you don't give the confidential info, there's nothing wrong with that. It is on the contrary, you are showing that you know your business. And
Yeah,
to be fair, that's how I decided to join Cognism. Like I was following Alice, I was following Liam and Fran back then on LinkedIn, and I just loved their posts. And I felt like, okay, these people know what they are doing, because
yeah.
there's another thing. You, you might like the company, but then you might end up in a team and you might end up working with people who don't know what they are doing, or you might feel that you are overqualified for the team. But during the interview process, they would tell you that okay, the team is amazing, everyone knows their stuff and stuff like that. But when I was joining the company, like I knew exactly what kind of person Alice was, what kind of person Fran was, and what they were already doing. And like I didn't spend any time with onboarding. I didn't spend any time in understanding those people, understanding how these people work, because I were reading them. And I think it does not only promote the people in the company, but also it helps with companies hiring, because you end up working with people who have been reading the post from the people who are the hiring managers, and they get to know these people before it is too late.
They're probably coming up with ideas for how they can help already. And those type of things. It's there's a lot more value, I think, than keeping
Definitely.
everything behind closed doors. Amazing. Right, we might jump into that a little bit more deeply later. I want to quickly change gears first. What I'm going to do with this is try and start with an energizing question to get you kind of thinking about a little bit outside the box, and hopefully that will set the tone for the rest of the conversation. I'm trying to keep it different every time, but for you, because of the scale that you're working at the minute, I want to put a question to you in terms of what would you do with LinkedIn ads, or what way would you approach LinkedIn ads if you had unlimited budget?
Well, I have this crazy idea that I have been thinking for a long time. Like, probably I have been thinking this for the last couple of months, but it is such a crazy idea. And if I decide to do that, it might actually, if it doesn't work, it might kill the all efficiency in there. So like I can't just do something like, you know what, I'm only going to spend 5% to test this. Like it needs to be either all in or nothing. Or like I need to have like, I don't know, 500 grand to test this. And this project is, so currently our LinkedIn account has a really good and solid structure. We have 5 different buckets. One for content, one for product, social proof, thought leadership, and the remarketing stuff. And then obviously we split by region, we split by persona, company size, job seniority, etc. And okay, we have this perfect learnings from each bucket. I have been running this lesson in Cognism for more than a year now. I basically created all of these current structures and it is working. So it actually doesn't need to be changed. But you know, once you get an idea, you just can't get rid of that idea. And this is the idea that I've been thinking a lot lately. What if we change the whole structure and create some kind of a funnel model on the campaign structure such that the thought leadership currently has static ads, has video ads. In some cases, we have the document ads and some influencer ad format, the new thought leadership ad
Yeah.
format, like the ones that you can promote the employee posts. But in my case, what if we just use the thought leadership to post the employee, to promote the employee posts, but we do it with such a high budget that we make sure that we reach literally all of our target audience. And I'm saying this because influencer ads is a new ad format. Therefore, the LinkedIn algorithm is prioritizing this ad format. I know it, you know it, LinkedIn knows it, everyone knows it. Okay, in order to increase the adaptation, the this ad format is that cheap right now. The other thing is that the audience penetration is amazing. Like you can reach a better audience with the same money. Like even if you spend the same amount of money in aesthetic, the campaign deliverability in the influencer ads would be better. Again, since it is a new ad format. So like it is literally the best time to test this. So make the thought leadership complete the influencer ads and allocate like a huge portion of budget, like literally a portion of budget that you can reach every people in your target addressable market. And in terms of return on investment, the return on investment will not be a website visit. It will not be revenue, but the thought leadership ad format will be used for remarketing. So you will keep that audience, but you will basically make sure that your remarketing audience will be such a qualified remarketing audience. But that remarketing audience will actually not be a remarketing audience. That audience will be your new cold audience. So like it is going to be like cold plus audience. Then that audience will be promoted the content as the product value as. So the idea behind this, you can still run the ads to cold audience. If you have the content, if you have the product, okay, this cold audience will be engaging. But if the cold audience has already engaged with people who are working in that company, probably they will be more engaged with the company's offering or company's content. Therefore, the idea behind that, probably this will maximize the CTR and this will maximize the ER, engagement rate. Then the code layer, code plus layer, now it shall be called. The code plus layer will be for content and for product value. Then for every people who have seen the product value or content is, they will be remarketed with social proof as. But this social proof as still won't be the total remarketing as that we know. It will just be for the sake of awareness. Like the objective won't be conversion, the objective will remain either as reach or traffic, but you will only be remarketing people who have been seeing and engaging your content and product value. Then the social proof bucket will contain 2 different campaign types: static and document tests. Document tests will be the case studies. Static tests will direct the audience to website. So if the audience visits the website from the social proof, then they will be retargeted by an actual remarketing campaign this time. Okay, demo, free lead offers, conversation list, because we now will make sure that this audience have been seeing our ads already. They have been on our website. If they download the document ad, now that we can remarket to document ad audience, We will also treat the people who download the document as or who read the document as until the 100% of it as equal to website visitors. Therefore, they will be treated like a remarketing audience. And in any case of this journey, if from thought leadership ad the audience visits the website, or if from the content or product value ad, instead of engaging, they directly visit the website, then they will be remarketed with the actual demo campaign, because then they will be on the website. And if they visit the high intent pages, obviously not the blog page, but the actual high intent pages. So it is basically refining the whole customer journey and changing the whole structure and creating 4 different remarketing layers, but also treating remarketing as a better version of cold layer marketing. This is what I would do if I have unlimited budget, but if I do that at Cognism, it would mean that I will have to change everything, and if it doesn't work, probably I'll get fired.
Yeah, I first of all, I love it, and the reason now, correct me if I'm wrong here. So I'm just going to summarize again. So basically, you're adding a new layer, which is essentially kind of like, so it's Cold Plus, but it's essentially trying to capitalize on the organic hype that's happening in LinkedIn right now in
Yep.
terms of the employee advocacy, and then building your whole funnel around data as an initial touch. And
Yeah, and the
then
thing is,
people can skip if they're ready.
definitely. And this would also mean for us that we will know which of our content work better in
Yeah.
our audience. Therefore, we will optimize our LinkedIn content, and our LinkedIn content at the end of the day will get better engagement even on the organic side, because we will know that which type of content works better in the eyes of our audience.
Amazing. So for anyone listening that is basically wondering what should they do or what should they take a chance on with their with their LinkedIn approach, I think that is not a bad approach to go ahead with. That is something that not many people have done before, and it's like the problem I have with a lot of the accounts I've seen is to get the edge, you have to do something a bit different, and you have to capitalize on where LinkedIn is giving you the advantages. And as you've rightly called out, the advantage right now is in thought leader ads. It's not, people are figuring out how to do it. A lot of people are testing it in the wrong way. They're spending a lot of money but not seeing much return off it. It's not what it's for. That's why it's called thought leader ads. So doing exactly what you've described and finding a way to bolster your whole system by using the edge that LinkedIn has given you right now is an incredible approach.
And the thing is, now I'm trying to focus more and more in the first party marketing audience on LinkedIn. Like, everyone is using new browsers. Like, the cookies are gone, the third party cookies are gone, and you won't be able to remarket your website audience properly. Like, I can't
Yeah,
even do that anymore properly. And probably in a year or two, it will be completely gone. Like, Safari is removing all of the URLs. And now there's Brave, Arc, new browsers. They are doing the same thing. The website data is about to be gone. Therefore, I'm just trying to get the best out of the LinkedIn remarketing audience, because that data from LinkedIn will remain there. And it is probably much qualified than the data I will get from my website.
for sure. Love it. What a way to start. That is, I want to keep it on that wavelength of talking about ideas because from what I've gathered already, that's your speciality, maybe. So the opposite of that. We've talked about unlimited budget, what you could potentially do if you were just given full green light to just do whatever you want. Now let's take that back, right? So we take all of those permissions away. You still want to keep the creativity, but everything else that you've been given permission to do, you don't have that anymore. You're working with a company who is giving you 5K a month. They say they need to see some return from their 5K a month. They don't really know what, but they want to see some return so that they can keep LinkedIn ads going. And it's only going to run for a test period of 3 months. So that's 5K a month for 3 months, 15K for the quarter. What way would you approach it?
I have one question. Is this a new company, or do they have some data about their sales, about their ICP, about their pipeline?
So, in terms of the company, yes. So, I'm going to use a common use case. So, yes, they do have some data. They don't have it organized very well, but they have some data. They have a sales team that is hungry for leads, and they haven't really used LinkedIn or any other social media platform in this way before.
All right. The first thing I would do if they have data even if the data is messed up. And to be fair, I have never joined a company that had a proper data set.
Okay.
So I think that's 101 for every company in a
Yeah.
growth phase. If you are in growth phase, your data must be messed up. Therefore, okay, I can work with data. I would at least see what is converting, not in terms of if they have the revenue data, perfect, but even if they don't have the revenue data, even if they have some pipeline data, some SQL data, perfect. And even if they don't have it, if they have MQL data, if those MQLs are not converting, it is still something that you need to work on. Like if you see that there are like 200 MQLs in the financial service industry and none of them converted, maybe the product is not for financial services industry. It will still tell something. So I would work on that data. And the second thing I would do to understand the product. Okay, what is this product capable of and how we can promote it? Because okay, sometimes I lose myself with these a lot of buckets like I say thought leadership, content, social proof, product quality, demo. But at the end of the day, if you are in a starting period, the only thing you can promote, the best thing you can promote is your product. Like, okay, if you create content, perfect, but that takes time, that takes effort, that takes money. Social proof, you need to have customers. Thought leadership, you need to have thought leaders. But for product, you only need to have a proper product. And if your product is proper, is strong enough, then you can promote it. So like product is the first thing to be looked at. So I would master the product at first. Like I would understand, I would learn the product, I would study the product, and I would study the ICP. Like who is my target audience? Then depends on the target audience, I would select the platform. For example, okay, the product might be good, but if the product is about truck transportation, I can't find the truck transportation people on LinkedIn. But if the product is like for fintech, then I can use LinkedIn. So like I cannot say I would start with this platform. I would choose the platform depending on the audience that I'm serving. But if I am to start with LinkedIn, I would start with product ads on LinkedIn to my audience, and I would keep the audience narrow but not that narrow. Like if the audience is like 5k, it is narrow. However, then if your ads doesn't work, don't work, then they don't work. Like you won't have any data. So like I would probably keep the audience around like maybe 25k to 40k to understand, to at least smoke test what is working and what is not working. Again, if you have 5 different ads in the product campaign and if your audience is like 15k, the data you will get from each ad will be different and it won't be statistically significant. And I also answered my own question. I would put 5s in the product value bucket, 5 to 6, with different value propositions. Because if I have no data, I would basically try to understand which content is resonating better with the audience so that I can work on that content. And with LinkedIn, I would start with like 5k in the first month. In the second month, I would allocate 1k of it for remarketing. Again, for people who have engaged with the single image ad and who have been on my website, however, who have been on my website from LinkedIn. Like I would take by the UTM contains LinkedIn page because I would know that people I target on LinkedIn are qualified. Therefore, these people can be targeted. Like I wouldn't want to be targeting people who have been on my website randomly. And on the third month, I would keep this going. And if I'm generating conversions, perfect. If I'm not generating enough conversions, I would create one more campaign for remarketing, but that time it will be conversationless, just to keep sending messages and make sure I'm sending these messages to the people who I have already reached. Hopefully it converts. However, if it doesn't convert, probably the first thing I would do to understand who am I targeting? Like, am I targeting the right people? Like, and again, LinkedIn is a perfect place for it because you can look at the demographics report, you can see the exact job titles, the exact companies. So that would be my Bible.
You hit on a couple of good points, and I'm glad you did on one in particular, which was a problem I see a lot. And when a part of my role was auditing accounts when I was at LinkedIn a couple of years ago, and it was really just going through as many as we could and trying to improve performance of each, finding easy things to do. And one of those was things not being statistically significant. And the reason was because with 5K or with whatever very smaller budgets, people were trying to do everything. They were trying to do all parts of the funnel, using many different ads, using loads of different tests. And while that is encouraged, of course, to find out what you want from the audits, it was very hard to actually understand what worked and what didn't because there was so little data for everything. So I think that's a huge part. And I think to kind of echo on your point, focusing in on say something like product ads or the one part of your marketing ecosystem that you're probably good at or already maybe good at. If you have a good product, that's it. If it's thought leadership, that's it. But focusing on that one and making that work first is definitely the best thing to do. And I think the reason being because any of strategy I've implemented on LinkedIn starts with the strength. You start with your strength, and then if once you get your strength to work, you're onto something that you can start to scale and start to kind of see where else it's going to work. But if you don't have your strength, you have nothing.
Yeah, definitely. Like you have to choose your battles. And
Yeah,
okay, you might want to start with content, but it will require you to create the content strategy, create the content itself. And
yeah,
if it doesn't work, then you would lose all of the time. You would burn the time that you invested. But
yeah,
if you already have the product, then you can promote it easily. And if it doesn't work, perfect. Then you can get the answer right away, and you will get the answer before allocating so much time, wasting so much
yeah,
time on it.
yeah. Amazing, great answer. You've covered both big and small there. So really appreciate that insight there, and I think that's going to be very valuable for people listening. Okay, so quickly switching onto something I wanted to ask you about because I know it's from reading your posts and from listening to you speak on other things. I know experimentation and testing things is a big part of what you do. But there's some specific things I want to ask you about, kind of like what's good on LinkedIn and what's not, or what you're doing at the minute. But before we get into that, I want to ask you about when have you been wrong about something? Maybe, or something that you has been the general consensus that you've been hearing across LinkedIn that you've tested and just isn't working. Because a huge part of experimentation is things are wrong. Sometimes, that's why we do it. So I'm interested to hear what you found.
I would say the campaign budgets. So
Okay.
you told about your experience at LinkedIn that people want to do everything with their small budget. And even if we didn't have a small budget, I tried to do everything with that budget. And for me, for a campaign, $50 daily budget was enough. Like not for all campaigns, but for some campaigns, $50 was enough for me at least, because I was using a weird calculation method. Like for each audience, they will get X dollars, therefore they should be enough. And I have ran this strategy for like a quarter in the beginning of 2023. And then our account managers from LinkedIn, they sent me my audience penetration data for the whole quarter. And I spent thousands of dollars for a lot of different campaigns with small daily budgets. And at the end of the quarter, my total audience penetration for these campaigns were less than 20%. And the problem was that, okay, me and my team, we check the frequency all the time, we check the engagement metrics all the time, but you don't see the frequency. Like frequency is still healthy, like it is like 2, it is like 1.5 per ad. On the campaign level it is 1.5, perfect. But when you look at the whole quarter view, apparently the whole audience penetration, and this data is not available on LinkedIn. Like you need to ask your account rep to get you this data. And we realized that like 20 campaigns out of like maybe 500, we have currently have more than 500 campaigns. So like around 5% of the campaigns only reach 20% of the whole audience. And we at the end of the quarter we spent like 5 grand, 6 grand for each campaign. It is not like we didn't spend a lot of money. And my account reps actually were warning me, and they were like, okay, you are allocating way lower budget than we recommend. And at the end of the day, I just think this because they get commission from my spend. Of course they want me to spend more, like it is a thing with account reps. Like I have problem with trusting them, no offense, like
That's
because
okay. Safe space here.
like with Google they come up with broad match, perfect. With Facebook they come up with some random stuff. with LinkedIn. Of course, they are going to recommend me to improve my campaign budget. But I was like, if I'm already spending more than 500k, more than 700k every month in my campaigns, like, do I really need to increase my budget, But apparently this happens on campaign level, not on the campaign group level, because I had the budget on the campaign groups mostly. Like, I was allocating that budget on the campaign groups. Then on the campaigns, I was like, okay, this campaign, it is a video ad campaign, therefore LinkedIn won't require a huge spend. Static ad would be more expensive, therefore for the same audience, single image ad will get $100, but the video ad will get $50. And yeah, it was the time that I was wrong, and our audience penetration scores ended up being less than 20-25%. And yeah, now we have, like, we stopped most of the campaigns with lower budgets, and we merged the campaigns. Therefore, we merged the budgets, and we have better budget for each campaign right now.
Nice. Okay. So is that one in one sense when the reps were right? Do you feel, or do you feel it
Yep,
was they're right for the right reasons? Okay.
yeah, they were right for a reason. Like, and to be fair, I work with a lot of reps, but our current reps on LinkedIn, they are the ones that are the best ones. And yeah, apparently we're in this enterprise segment on
Yeah.
LinkedIn. So like, we have 2 reps, and they actually pay attention to us. Like, Facebook is brutal. Google is horrible. Like, and before Cognism, we still had some reps, but we were not in a proper tier. So like,
Yeah.
a rep would only spend like 1 hour of their week to us. Therefore, the recommendations would be very shallow.
Yep.
But currently, they actually pay attention to our account, and they actually let us know if something is going wrong.
Yeah, and I think that does bring me on to a point about working with your reps in LinkedIn. Yeah, so for anyone that doesn't know, at this stage, I was a rep. I did 5 roles at LinkedIn while I was there, from ranging from campaign management to client solutions management to being an account director, kind of overseeing an account, say like Cognism. And I think the thing about working with them is that unless you're at the top tier, which is like the really high spend, really engaged reps that are probably going to offer you a lot of data around your account and what you can do, you probably know your account better than they do. So you should be proactively going to them and asking, what else is there? What else can we do? What are the reports that you have that we don't know about, or that can help us with our KPI? Because unless it's at the top tier, the enterprise tier, as you said, from my experience, unless it's changed in the last couple of years, that's kind of the only place you will get space as the rep to be able to really take a deep dive into the LinkedIn account of your client.
I mean, even with our account, it has been challenging. Like, when I first joined, like, our reps were sending us documents because they were asked from LinkedIn, like their LinkedIn management. But there were like no such involvement in our account. But after working with them like for maybe 5 months, it has been developed organically, because they understood what kind of person I am. I
Yeah,
understood what kind of person they are. And now they know that I only want to hear something if it is about my account. I don't
yeah,
want to hear some lead generation company is doing a lead gen and they decrease their cost per lead by 20%. They know that it is not something that I'm looking for. And now they are coming up with some crazy good stuff, but it took a lot of time. You
yeah.
are right. Like, I think I'm one of those lucky people, lucky few people, because we are spending so much money. Therefore, we are getting the enterprise tier
Yeah,
engagement.
for sure. And a good piece of advice I got from a client that I worked with for, I think it was nearly 3 years on an account, and it was just a funny relationship. We ended up working for so long together, but we were friends still. And he said to me one time, Rob, look, we appreciate you being in the account, but bring solutions, not problems. If you're gonna tell us about something, tell us what we need to do to change it, or what other people are doing in the context of us. And it was such a brilliant piece of advice that completely changed the way I thought about accounts. But yeah, it was funny. Right, let's switch it up a little bit to dig into some of the cool stuff you're doing on LinkedIn at the minute. So there's a couple of things floating around there's a lot of different, I suppose, opinions on what's maybe hot or not on LinkedIn at the minute. But is there anything interesting you're doing right now that you think is worth sharing? One I want to call out as well, and I hope you do mention, is your recent post on what you're doing with Sales Navigator.
Yeah, I was actually going to start with that one.
Okay.
We officially completed the test like 7 days ago, maybe 8 days ago, more than a week now. And so Sales Navigator is now providing intent data. And the weird thing with Sales Navigator and LinkedIn is like they are two different products. And it feels like they are coming from two different companies. There is no connection between each other. You cannot, like I also said this in my post. When you think about it, it's $1 billion industry. You imagine a world. Your sales team are creating list that they are approaching, and you will see that this dynamically on your LinkedIn ads, and you can target these ads right away. Or vice versa. Sales people will be seeing the companies who are engaging with your current ads, therefore they can engage with those companies right away. Like when you think about it, very simple and $1 billion idea. But the test we ran was about the intent data. I think they released this feature like in the beginning of the year, and for a couple of months, maybe more than a quarter, I have waited LinkedIn to implement this for campaign manager as well. Obviously they didn't, and I was like, you know what, I want to test that data. So I got the sales navigator account from the sales team, and I created a very basic list on Sales Navigator. Companies who are showing high intent, companies who are identified as enterprise employee size metrics, and companies who are in certain industries that we target. Then I exported this data, and I'm using hockey stick to understand the LinkedIn data better. So I uploaded that list and compared the data with what I see on hockey stick. And from that data, I excluded the companies who have been seeing my ad, who have been seeing my ads. Therefore, therefore, I want to create an intent list of companies which are totally organic, which have not seen any of this, and totally organic intent companies, maybe like 25, 30 companies, and edit these companies manually to LinkedIn Campaign Manager. So LinkedIn gave us an account, a testing account with our spend. Like we have like 35K that we can test every quarter in that account. And I'm basically using that account for my crazy ideas to basically validate the ideas. And this was one of them. I created two campaigns, one for marketing, one for sales persona. We have four main personas but two of them are literally like the most important personas. So one for marketing, one for sales, and I start with product. I create two campaigns with product values. The content is similar with what we are using in the actual ads. The ad copies are similar, or to be fair, the same, not even similar. The only different thing was the audience. So the person level targeting was also the same, like in terms of the job function, in terms of the seniority, they were the same. But on the company side, I have added the list of 25 companies in each campaign. And we have run these two campaigns for almost a month and spent like around 5K for both campaigns. And after we compared the results of the Sales Navigator intent campaigns versus our original product value campaigns, so the CTR was expected to be higher, and it was higher. Perfect. The engagement rate was expected to be higher. It was higher. Okay. And these were actually providing there are also third party intent data providers, and you might not get the best intent from them. But for example, G2 is providing first party intent, which is directly coming from their side, and it is a data that I can trust. And similar with LinkedIn, probably LinkedIn is getting that data from the actual company actions within the platform. Therefore, it is a much more reliable data. But again, CTR and increase were expected. The thing that I was not expecting was to see a decrease in CPC. So even though the company size, the total audience size was very small, and the amount of companies I was targeting was very limited, it was like 25. The CPCs in the new campaigns were lower than our original campaigns. Okay, the cost per reach was higher, and it is expected because we are targeting a very small audience. but this audience have been clicking this constantly. And at the end of the day, we saw around like almost 2x lower CPC in the new campaigns than the original campaigns. And it actually showed me the validity of the intent data. Like if a company is showing intent, and if they see your ad on the right time when they are showing the intent, they will click that right away. And even though our KPI was not to generate MQLs, we end up generating MQLs. Like for us, the test month was about measuring the engagement rate and CTR, but we actually generated more MQLs than our original campaigns, and these MQLs had a better conversion rate than our original campaigns. Therefore, intent data works.
Well, I think that's a resounding use case for intent data. I think the holy grail, I suppose, is to work with a small account list of people that you know exactly are your customers and that have shown some signs that you want to work with them. And for a lot of companies, it can be quite simple. You know, what you've actually just described is a really, for any company that uses Sales Navigator and LinkedIn in tandem, there's many small SMB companies that do. You know, they do use ads and they do use Sales Nav. And what you've just described for them is a really, really clever way to do a quick ABM strategy, or using LinkedIn intent data, where a lot of companies feel that ABM is a bit out of their reach, or it's a bigger project than it actually is. LinkedIn is a really powerful platform to do it, and you can do it in a little bit manual from what you've described, but easy way.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about outcome, I am okay to do this process manually. Okay, in the ideal world, I would send the data dynamically from Navigator to LinkedIn. But even in this case, okay, sometimes I complain way too much about LinkedIn. But the level of targeting I have on LinkedIn is unmatched. And I cannot do a similar targeting neither on Facebook or Google or on Reddit. Like if you see the companies that are showing you the intent, you can basically target by company name, which is actually, when you think about it, that's crazy. Like before, like 2 years before, 3 years before, it was not even the case. I remember the first time I saw the company name on LinkedIn, it was probably like 2010, maybe 2019. I was like, oh my goodness, they're here. And now, okay, we can see intent data even if it is in a different platform, and we can target the intent data within the same platform and on the company line. Like we don't need to create a whole ABM strategy. We can do it in a day.
Yeah, and I think, like, to your point on the targeting being there on LinkedIn, there was an interesting point made to me before, where I was working with a client and they knew their audience was on LinkedIn. It, and there was something new I was testing for them, and they said, "Yeah, test that and make it work." And it wasn't the case of test it and see if it works. It's like, yeah, that audience is who we want. You just have to find a way of copywriting this ad or building this ad in a way that's going to make work. You know, and it was a really interesting perspective of someone from a company who really just got that LinkedIn was there. It was just about beating the competition to it. You know,
And did it work?
it worked, but do you know what it actually was? I don't know if you remember this. It was LinkedIn Stories. Do you remember that?
Oh my God, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
It it worked, but it was a terrible, terrible ad format. It was a really bad ad format. You know, it just in general that didn't work, but it it, it did what we needed it to do.
I
Yeah,
mean, it's been such a long time. Like I completely forgot that it existed.
yeah. It was one of those ones where, like, I got it from an ad perspective in terms of it took up a lot of space. You could really get across your brand impact with that ad, but from a user perspective, it just didn't translate. You know, there was people in the office and they were like taking a story of them doing their work during the day, or you know, putting up a new notepad they got maybe from the company, or it just, I don't know. It was a strange idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think back then there was Snapchat, Instagram stories,
Yeah.
Facebook stories, and LinkedIn was trying to be a social media platform, not a business platform.
We
Backfired.
just, I gotta leave it at this. We never needed LinkedIn stories. we, we never needed LinkedIn stories. Right. So I'm going to use that one to segue into the next question. So that's an ad format that we can likely forget about and never think about again after this conversation. But if you were to have a magic wand what would be a feature you would implement into LinkedIn right away?
So for I'm going to start with the first question at
Yeah.
format. I think, and actually I sent this as an email to my account rep, and I said, "Can you please forward this email to your CPO? This is a $1 billion idea." I don't know if she did it or not, but I actually sent this email like a couple of weeks ago. PPC on LinkedIn. Now, if you are going to search for a company name, do you search on Google or on LinkedIn? Probably you do on LinkedIn if it is about B2B. And in most of the cases, you go to company page, then you go to website from the company page to their website.
Yep.
Because Google is messed up with S, Google is messed up with so many ways, and people use LinkedIn for their search engine for B2B companies.
Yep.
Imagine you are looking for Cognism, and under that, you are seeing an ad from our competitor.
Yeah.
Like, such an amazing way. But yes, the CPO didn't come back to me, and I don't know what is going to happen. But if they somehow decide to launch it, I have my email, and it will be my proof. So it will be the product that I would want from LinkedIn. In
Yeah.
terms of magic wand, I have two answers. If I have a perfect magic wand and if I can get everything done, I would basically copy Google S into LinkedIn. Like every feature on Google S. Okay, I hate the experience, I hate the whole UI, I hate the whole experience, but the features are amazing. Like seeing the search impression share of your S before coming with before having talk with your account rep, comparing the data properly. Like when you think about it, we have the compare option for the last 5 months maybe. When you think about it, it is crazy. Like people are spending billions of dollars to this ad platform, and you didn't have a ad compare, the time compare option. Like having the options like search impression share, the S, your S, how many times your S have been shown, auction insight report that I have on Google, like how many times, what other companies are targeting my audience. Perfect. Like search queries, what are the actual interests of my audience? Like it is not like only the insight report from the campaign, the actual report, not limited by 20 company names or not limited by 20 interests. Like I should be able to go back 20 pages, 30 pages. Like if I had a magic wand, I would start with auction insight to see who else targeting my current audience. If I have the complete magic wand, I would basically copy everything that Google has to LinkedIn.
Nice. Yeah, well, I don't think anyone can argue with that. As you said, some of the stuff that's been brought in from LinkedIn has been in the right place, but executed not really in the right way. I don't think it's been effective.
Yeah, now that I'm thinking, like, isn't it crazy that we cannot optimize the ads by device? Like, we
Yeah,
cannot schedule an ad. Like, crazy and
yeah.
so basic. Like, even on Reddit ads, I can actually have a better experience. Like, even on Reddit, even on Twitter ads, I can target by device type. But on LinkedIn, I can't do that.
The only way you can do it is with text and spotlight
Vertical
ads. Yeah.
or
Oh, I'm
vertical.
vertical. I'm vertical. True. Yeah, yeah. For single and video, but yeah, text and spotlight. That's always why I just I put them into the mix in every campaign I have, because even if they don't spend or have no scale, it's like if you get a click on a text or a spotlight ad, you're with someone's on a desktop. Its conversion rate is through the roof compared to mobile. So they're worth having in the mix, but scale is a huge problem.
Yeah, and actually, I'm going to share something that I don't know if it is a hack or not, but it's been working really well on the Spotlight S. So the objective is conversion, but the bit strategy is impressions. So
Yeah,
when you match these two stuff together, your CPC gets really high, okay, but the amount of impressions you get somehow skyrocket. But you pay less for your cost per impression than you pay for reach objective. I don't know if it is a bug or is a feature, but objective conversion bit type impression brings way cheaper CPM, and the audience penetration is way better than any other objective match.
that is interesting because that is typically something I would tell people to run a mile from. Bidding on impressions. I
And
wonder.
the thing is, my intern found it out and he made a mistake. I was at the time, I was like, okay, this is a bit weird data. Are we sure this is correct? Then I went to the platform. I was like, okay, this data is correct. What did you do? And Yeah, he did it by mistake, but now we are using it.
Oh, 100%. Keep using that for as long as you can. Just hope none of the LinkedIn product teams see this. Oh, amazing. I didn't know that was a thing. I'm going to implement that into my campaign straight away and see if it's still working. I'm hoping it's not, well, for you, I'm obviously happy for you, but I'm hoping it's not just a bug for your specific account where it's working, but we'll see.
See, I'm with my LinkedIn stuff.
Nice. Nice. Do you get much swag?
I mean, I have to ask all the time. Like, I have no pride. So, like,
No.
and
Do it.
they are sending to me, but I'm now sending them email. And I'm like, you can't just send it to me. You need to send it to my whole team.
Yeah.
So last week they sent all of these water bottles, but mine is posh one, and they sent some plastic ones to the rest of the team.
That's a nice one. That's the chili one, isn't it? Proper.
Yes,
It's
it's so good. Like, so good.
nice. Nice. Yeah, that's one thing I miss. Is the stuff I used to get. I don't have any stuff anymore. I have a couple of mugs, and it's weird. My mom has. So I was an intern at LinkedIn. So back in like 2014, crazy when sponsor content was just becoming like it was just released in Europe actually, the day I arrived. But basically, I got this mug which just has like LinkedIn intern on it, and my mother still when I go for tea in my mother's house, she'll give me that mug.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
It's good. Okay, cool. So, right, we're coming towards the end of it now. You've covered so much in the time we've been speaking in terms of like your strategy. I was going to go deep in, and you've described it in different questions and stuff, how you use LinkedIn. So, what I want to do now to just kind of like give people something to think about and maybe some insight and actionable insights that they can use for their own strategies moving forward because you've given so much already. What what are a couple of things you're testing at the minute? So in terms of let's think about document ads, thought leader ads, some of the new things like that.
So we tested document S in the beginning of this year, and we tested for a quarter. The engagement was good, like the cost per reach was good, the audience penetration was good, the engagement rates were off the charts because they basically clicked us, and it was the like documenters were new back then, so people were engaging them more. But at the end of the day, it just turned out to be an upgrade version of carousel ads.
Yeah.
And now people know what document ads are, they are less likely to click and stuff. So at the end of the first quarter we paused the ads because unlike any other ads that we tested or we are running, we were not able to provide the return on investment. Like I mentioned, the thought leadership ads, okay, we are not running them for the sake of website visits, for the sake of revenue, but at least we can create a proper remarketing audience from that ad type. With documented, it was not the case. Like you were not even able to create a remarketing audience. Now it came back, so I'm testing it again. But this time, so we test document ads with thought leadership and with some of the social proof stuff, but they were like very light and for the cold audience. Now we are testing document ads on the remarketing layer, and we are testing document ads in the social proof case study format, so that if actually similar to what I described if I had the unlimited budget. We are using it to target the website visitors or who have been engaging with bottom of the funnel content, but still not promising, like because in order for you to get a proper remarketing audience, like if you want to remarket people who have downloaded the case study, you need to wait for like I don't know 500 people. And for if you are going to do with impression and engagement on thought leadership, you can probably get it in a week. But when it is about downloading a case study, it is hard. And like the return on investment is not there. So yeah, I think the documentaries are going to be a upgrade version of Carousel S. And speaking of upgrade versions, the other thing I'm going to say, and like honestly, I wasn't prepared for this questions, but I'm just thinking LinkedIn, and I'm just realizing how much I'm fed up with LinkedIn stuff. Predictive audiences. So we have tested these predictive audiences, and they were like lookalike audiences on Street, and apparently they were going to be powered by the AI. And my assumption was that okay, who owns LinkedIn? Microsoft. What owns Microsoft owns what? ChatGPT. perfect. They somehow integrate ChatGPT into my audiences and it is going to analyze my data and stuff. So we put the perfect data from Salesforce. We create these predictive audiences. Oh my goodness, worse than lookalike. Like
Wor-
honestly, worse than lookalike. Like okay, cheaper, but engagement rates are awful. Like imagine targeting marketing people, but you end up reaching executive assistants, or you end up reaching so irrelevant people. Like horrible. Then yeah, it was a test that was a failure. The other thing, now it is not a test anymore, but it started as a test, was job function targeting. So like most of the companies, we were doing job title targeting, but as we scale the campaigns, it just became so much because like my team has an audit guide. Like I made my team audit the accounts every week, and they need to be following some steps. Like they are checking the demographics report, they are checking the
Yeah.
job titles that are being targeted and companies, industries. And if you okay, you might be targeting a good amount of people, but you will always end up targeting some irrelevant job titles as well. So you need to be excluding those job titles. However, at some point you just cannot use that amount of filters. Like you might have 50 job titles and 50 job exclusions, then you will get an error. You cannot use more filters. And I was like, okay, this is not sustainable because these campaigns will keep hitting different job titles. And the weird thing is that like each job title, each irrelevant job title we exclude, the audience size decreases considerably. Like it is not like audience size doesn't change. We remove one thing and then it goes up by like 1k, 2k, and it's like okay, I don't want to target these people. So I was like, okay, let me find the underperforming campaigns in the last couple of months and test something else. So we tested job functions in the low performing campaigns, and we start to see a huge increase in the reach, which was expected, but also engagement rate. It was a bit like broad match in Google. Like you end up targeting some weird job titles as well. But if you constantly remove the irrelevant job titles from demographic reports, then it gets better than job title, I suppose. And now this job function test has become a blueprint for Cognism. We are using job function targeting in most of the campaigns. And now if a job function doesn't work, we try job title. But job function targeting has become again a blueprint, and we were able to create a unification document across personas. Like because in each campaign, you end up targeting different job titles, different irrelevant job titles. For example, you might be seeing a social media manager in a content marketing campaign list and community manager in a product value. But at the end of each month, we basically create this document in which we edit all of the irrelevant job titles we excluded from each campaign, we unify them, and then we remove all of them from every marketing campaign. Therefore, it has helped us to improve our engagement rates very significantly. And yeah, it has become my favorite test, to be fair, during my tenure at Cognism.
And like that's a one that I've had a lot of pushback over the years, especially with function, is well, we know who the job titles we want to go after are. Why would we bother with function? And to be honest, sometimes it's justified when they're really, really specific. Yeah, I get it, but sometimes there's not, and there is like for Cognism, it is a bigger buying committee. There's a lot of people involved, and it makes a lot of sense. One thing that I've always been encouraged to do with the targeting is kind of similar to what you've described, when there's enough budget there to test a couple of different audiences against each other. So that's maybe function and seniority versus job title versus sometimes even things like groups. And it's weird. There's no kind of exact formula for what's worked over the years. Sometimes it's been groups, sometimes it's been seniority, skills, and things like it. Just the LinkedIn platform itself, and something I always like to talk about is the algorithm is definitely not perfect yet. And the more you can experiment and keep things within your control and make your own assumptions, the more value you're going to get.
Yeah, definitely. And the thing that is important, I believe, is that what works for one company might not work for the other. And now I'm actually experiencing this from first hand. As I said in the beginning of this call, like I am managing three different companies right now: Cognism,
Yep.
Mailtastic, and Casper. Mailtastic is in DACH region, and they have two personas, IT and marketing. And I try to implement the same structure we had at Cognism, job function targeting. For marketing persona, it is working, but for IT, like I knew that it worked at Cognism. I knew that it worked every region Cognism had. So I pushed for months, like for maybe 4 5 months, because I honestly thought it was going to work. But
Yep.
at the end of the day, you just cannot disagree with data. Like the data was there and it just didn't work. Job targeting for IT in the works better than job function targeting. But again, it is just about the company, it is about the persona, it is about yourself.
Yeah, completely agree. That's a very interesting perspective you have right at the minute, being able to do it multiple different companies. Because even when I was at LinkedIn, I have much less clients now. When as I'm an agency now, you just get less exposure and you have less access to data. But that was the point you would try to talk about. You know that every company is different. You need to find your own way, and a lot of clients would come back and be like, "Just tell us what's the best way to do it," you know. And there
Yeah,
was
and
no.
that's the problem. Like up until this year, I would think that the LinkedIn reps are telling me this because they want me to spend more money. And when you think about it, okay, it makes sense. But now I'm also working as some external clients as a freelancer, and I'm telling them, okay, this is working for another company, but this might not work for you. And
Yeah.
now I feel like they're thinking me as someone who is trying to make them spend more. And now I can understand what LinkedIn people would think back then.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And you also get pushback on the age-old marketing response of someone asks, "Will it work?" And it depends. you
Yeah,
know,
like
it's
that's my answer. I just say like all of my average answers. It depends. And people are like, do the things you are doing at Cognism. I'm like, Cognism is a different company. Like it won't work. I cannot do the exact same things that I do there.
yeah, exactly. And what I say now as well, just because I have that perspective, is when I'm working with a new client, I'm not going to guarantee you that LinkedIn ads will work, but I'm pretty sure I can give them as good a chance as they can get to see if they'll work or not. So that's my new way. Rather than it depends, that's my answer. We've talked about so much, we've covered so much. So thanks so much for your time on this. Really, it's been a great chat. I've one question that I love to ask, and it was for Ben Jones last week. It was a good answer as well. So you're obviously a fountain of knowledge of marketing and paid ads and everything now. Where do you get a lot of your inspiration or your testing, or where do you pick up a lot of the content that you consume?
So I would say LinkedIn. Like if you follow the right people on LinkedIn, you get exposed to a lot of good stuff. And obviously there are a lot of people that you shouldn't be following on LinkedIn as well. Like because some people just talk about their success. But like I believe I find the best inspiration in people who both talk about their success and their failures. And on LinkedIn, for example, Silvio Perez is an amazing guy. And like I actually learned how to run Google Ads from his YouTube videos back in like 2019. Tim Davidson on LinkedIn, as he's coming up with some amazing stuff. Chris Walker from Refine Labs with his demand gen mindset.
Imagine.
Like I would say LinkedIn and then YouTube. However, what I would recommend on YouTube is that you need to find really niche people because okay, you can get a LinkedIn as training, but they might be showing you stuff that would work for general companies. Or they would maybe just be talking about lead generation. Or if you are going to do Google Ads, most of training you will find on YouTube will be B2C. Therefore, yeah, LinkedIn is the channel that I get the most ideas and get most of the inspirations. And what I realized is that like I for the last year I have been posting every week. I'm trying to post every week about the test I'm running, about the experiments I'm running, both the success and failures. I was thinking like on my feed I see maybe like 20 different people, 30 different people, but like I don't see a lot of people. But as I keep posting more, I realize how many people are reading. Okay, they are not
Yeah.
writing content, they are not posting content, but 99.9% of these people are constantly reading you. And now, like, there are people messaging me and they are coming up with ideas. And when I post something, probably they just don't post it, maybe because their company doesn't allow them. They maybe just don't want it. But then they message me and they come up with ideas and they're like, have you tried it? Or I'm trying that. The important thing is the messages coming from these people. Like, these people have become a real inspiration for me. And if I'm constantly posting, it is not the likes that I'm getting, it is the people that that are messaging me in private.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I started posting at the start of this year. It was kind of a case of I was working at LinkedIn and never wanted to post, or never just, I was just like, it wasn't for me. And then I started this year and I was like, why not? You know, I see a lot of stuff that's floating around that maybe wasn't necessarily the best advice or whatever, and I was kind of reading some of it and getting slightly annoyed, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to start this now. But there's so much to be picked up, and what I'm seeing is there's people coming out of the woodwork who I've worked with in the past, and I've been like, that is a really intelligent, good marketer right there who hasn't been posting on LinkedIn. And in recent months, I'm seeing them starting to post, and I'm just like, this is what we want. So it's becoming a really vibrant place for it.
Yeah, I think you are so right. Like, a lot of people are posting, and the people who actually know their stuff are seeing the post from people who are posting some random stuff, and they're like,
Yeah.
okay, I need to start posting because my findings are better. Like, actually, I remember the time I decided to post, someone posted about how to exclude companies from your LinkedIn campaigns. I'm like, okay, if someone is posting about that, probably I can post better stuff.
I've been following some of the tests and stuff. Keep that up because it's such
Thank you.
good insight for people. Yeah, it's brilliant. So yeah, I think we're pretty much there. We've covered everything. So I just want to say, Canberk, thank you so much for joining today. I really enjoyed that chat. There was so much value there, and I hope the audience enjoyed it as well. So yeah, one last time, thank you very much for that.
Yeah, and thank you so much for having me. And if you are still listening to us after like 75 minutes, thank you so much, because it's been a long podcast.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I'm sure
I
there's,
love it
there's
though. Like, I love it. Like, it felt like Lord of the Rings. It is like 4 hours, but you don't feel like it is 4 hours.
the people still listening now are those lurkers, the people that you're talking about who don't necessarily like or whatever, but they'll message you at the end. These are the people still listening. So we like you. Nice one. Okay, thanks guys.